this video, we will talk about the micronutrients and their food sources. The micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. Just like we learned that the carbohydrates, fats, and protein are macronutrients. Since we need a lot fewer vitamins and minerals compared to the energy nutrients, we classify them as micronutrients. Although you may think of supplements when I say vitamins and minerals, they are naturally found in food. Supplements are simply synthetic or artificially made versions of what we get naturally out of food. Vitamins and minerals are found in all whole and minimally processed foods in every food group. However, the more processed the food, the fewer natural sources of vitamins and minerals there are. Much of the processing techniques remove or destroy the vitamins and minerals, although many times synthetic versions are added back into the food, like we saw with the enriched refined grains. I see two major problems when people evaluate food labels. The first is that when looking at the label, they get way too focused on the macronutrients and never look to see what vitamins and minerals the food provides. Your body does not function the way it is supposed to when it does not have all of those micronutrients. So we should acknowledge those precious vitamins and minerals in our food. But admittedly, sometimes the labels don't tell the whole story because they are only required to include a handful of vitamins and minerals on the label. So you might not know if a food has other micronutrients like the B vitamins or vitamin A, E, magnesium, or zinc in the food. On the other hand, sometimes manufacturers include all of the micronutrients they added to the food to make it look better than a less processed food. Remember, the more processed foods must add micronutrients lost in processing. Sometimes they add more than required and want to make sure that you know about it. It is not necessarily bad. It's kind of like consuming a vitamin supplement. But we have other problems with processing that we will talk about later in the term. The other problem I have noticed when people evaluate a food label is they assume a food is not a good choice because it doesn't have a specific vitamin or mineral. But should we expect our foods to have all the micronutrients? For example, when evaluating tuna, would you say that it is a poor choice because it has no calcium in it? Should tuna have a good amount of calcium? No. Most of your meats and fish are not high sources of calcium. We get that mineral primarily from dairy. The truth is that no single food has all of the micronutrients you need. If they did, we would only need to eat one food all day long. Instead, we are supposed to eat a variety of foods from each of the food group because each of the food groups has varying amounts of the micronutrients. That's why I keep using this My Plate graphic in the videos. Each food group contains foods with specific nutrients. So we are just looking at fish, which is in the protein group. Those foods are more likely to have higher amounts of vitamins A, D, E, and the B vitamins, iron, zinc, and magnesium. Notice there was no calcium listed. That is because dairy is our main contributor of that mineral. While some of the vegetables have calcium, not enough of them have significant amounts, so it's not considered a primary nutrient. I really like to look at the food groups for their primary nutrients. It can really help you learn the significant sources of those micronutrients. But even though one group is known to have higher amounts of a specific nutrient, each individual food has varying amounts of each of those nutrients. Let's look at the vegetables, for instance. Note that the vegetables contain higher amounts of vitamin C, A, and potassium. If we look at the micronutrients for carrots, notice that it has 70% of what you need daily for vitamin A, but only 4% of what you need for potassium. But broccoli has a lot more potassium at 13% of what you need in the day, and less vitamin A than the carrots had. So the point is that you need to eat a variety of foods within each of the food groups to obtain all of the vitamins and minerals you need. In other words, if we don't want you to eat the same 1 or 2 vegetables every single day, you should eat a variety of different fruits, vegetables, protein foods, grains, and dairy every day. Now, these percentages that I'm pointing out on the labels are the percent daily value. They represent a percent of the total amount for the day. So if you eat 1 serving of these baby carrots, you will obtain 4% of what you need for potassium each day. The idea is you should always reach for at least 100%. In other words, 100% is the minimum. The percent daily values are only found on nutrition labels. We have another guideline that we use to recommend amounts of vitamins and minerals that is called the Recommended Dietary Allowances. This is a chart within the DRI that tells you how much of each micronutrient you should consume daily. Note that it is much more specific to gender and age, which won't fit on a food label. That's why we use percent daily value instead. It is just one value. But they both mean the same thing. The minimum amount that you should consume each day. So does that mean you can consume any amount that you want above 100% daily value or the RDA? No, but it takes quite a bit to reach the maximum amount. We call the maximum amount the upper limit. This is the top amount you can safely consume. Not all vitamins and minerals have an upper limit because there are no toxic levels identified in research. On this chart, you can see the majority of the vitamins and minerals with the RDA and upper limit. If the RDA is the minimum and the upper limit is the maximum, then you should consume somewhere between the two. For instance, you should consume at least 100% of the RDA, which is 700 micrograms for vitamin A, but not exceed 429% of the recommended amount. It is very difficult for you to get too much of vitamins and minerals from eating foods. The only time you really get too much is when you consume supplements. And since you can get all of the micronutrients from foods, you can safely try to exceed 100% on the food labels for each of the vitamins and minerals. To sum up the key points about vitamins and minerals, you should eat a variety of foods from each food group. Don't get stuck eating the same thing over and over, or you will be likely to miss out on vital micronutrients. Choose mostly fresh and minimally processed foods to ensure that you're obtaining the right amount. Remember, processed foods have lost most of their natural micronutrients and have to be enriched. While similar to taking a supplement, the problem is that supplements can lead to consuming excess amounts. Aim to eat more than 100% of the RDA or daily value for the micronutrient from food sources. But remember, we are talking about vitamins and minerals, not the energy nutrients. If you consume more than 100% of the macronutrients, which provide calories, you may take in more calories than your body needs. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Eat fresh and be well.